Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're taking the sources you sent us, in this case, excerpts from a really foundational speech, and we're going to give you the context and the claims, all boiled down. Today, we're diving into Reverend Sun Myung's declaration from October 1976. It's called The Day of the Victory of Heaven. And this document, it's pivotal. It comes right after that huge Washington Monument rally in September. So our mission here is to unpack the theological claims being made, these big claims about global victory, the laws of history, and even a complete transformation of the spiritual world.
That's a great place to start.
Yeah.
This speech, given on October 4th, 1976, it formally marks that day as the end of the Washington Monument campaign. But the date itself has this double significance.
Okay.
Yeah. October 4th, 76 is the global victory, but it's also meant to mirror October 4th, 1955.
Which was?
That was the exact date the speaker was liberated from a South Korean prison. So the claim is that a personal liberation 21 years earlier actually laid the groundwork for this global liberation being declared in America.
Okay, let's start with the numerology behind October 4th, because the sources present this as a very calculated date, not a random one at all. So why are the numbers 4, 9, and 10 so important here?
Well, it connects directly to these cycles of history and restoration in the divine principle. According to their theology, the number 9 symbolizes completion. It's the end of the world under Satan's dominion.
And 10 is the return.
Exactly. 10 represents heaven, the return to God's original ideal. But the number 4 is maybe the most significant historically. It represents the heavenly 4 positions.
That's the core family structure, right? God, Adam, Eve, and then their children.
Precisely. The structure that was shattered by the fall. And that's why you see the number 4 pop up constantly in biblical history. 40 days, 4,000 years. It's a pattern.
So October 4th is being framed as the climax of that 4-position restoration, but on a worldwide scale.
That's the claim.
So if the fall was this total rupture of that original structure, what was the universe supposed to be like before that? The source material gives this surprisingly vivid description of it.
It's a description of complete, almost visceral harmony. The idea is, if humanity hadn't fallen, God would have literally dwelt with a perfected Adam and Eve on earth.
Okay.
And this would have created a world where everything, God, man, angels, all of creation, was united. But what's really fascinating is the level of sensory awareness they talk about.
You mean like understanding nature?
More than that, a perfected person would instantly grasp the meaning of a bird song or the sound of rushing water. The whole universe would be operating like a single orchestrated body of joy.
And that leads right to this really powerful idea about laughter. The sources claim that in that original state, laughter wasn't just in your face.
No, not at all. The original intention was for the whole body to laugh. Your hands, your feet, your pores, even what they call the internal man.
The entire being.
The entire being. If your spirit and your body were perfectly aligned with God when you laughed, the universe would literally laugh with you. The trees, the mountains, everything would participate in that ecstasy.
So the tragedy of the fallen world is that we're numb to that.
That's the word they use. Numb. You might laugh with your mouth, but your internal man could be weeping. The connection is severed.
And that severing, that fall, is what created this whole need for indemnity.
Yeah.
If you define that as making spiritual restitution, how does the doctrine lay out that historical journey back?
Well, the fall meant man sank to a level below creation itself. So restoration is this long, painful climb back up. The sources summarize it into 2 huge stages of failure, really.
The first being the Old Testament era.
Right. 4,000 years of sacrifices and prophets trying to raise humanity to the level of a servant. But the foundation Israel rejected Jesus.
And that rejection meant the whole foundation was lost.
It was lost. Which led to the second stage, Christianity. And while Christianity was a vital step, the sources describe it as the religion of adopted sons.
Meaning not yet perfected.
Not yet perfected, not mature sonship. So the task of actually rebuilding that original structure had to be taken up again in the 20th century.
And that historical failure sets the stage for how this movement sees America. The sources claim this indemnity process is being reenacted, but geographically, racially even.
Yes. In this framework, Korea was chosen to fulfill the role Israel failed at 2,000 years ago. And America, as the central Christian nation, takes the role of the Roman Empire, a kind of global foothold.
But the relationship is defined by this Cain and Abel dynamic.
Exactly, where Cain is the aggressor or the elder and Abel is the younger, the one representing God's side.
And that dynamic can flip, right? It isn't static.
It flips, it's layered. First, they say when the Pilgrims came to America, they were the persecuted minority. They were able. The Native American majority was in Cain's position.
Okay.
But now the dynamic is reversed. The speaker, coming from Asia, is in the able position and is being rejected by the established white Christian majority in America, now in the Cain position.
So the Washington rally is declared the victory of Abel over Cain.
On a global stage, fulfilling a task that they say previous Christian nations failed to achieve.
Okay, so let's shift to the timeline. The sources claim the 33 years between 1945 and 1978 were meant to indemnify Jesus' 33-year life. And the foundation for that was 3 major rallies in America.
That's right. Each one indemnified a different level of failure. Madison Square Garden in '74, that was victory on Adam's level, a spiritual foundation.
Say Yankee Stadium in '76.
That was Jesus' level. This required a symbolic crucifixion and resurrection.
And this is where that incredible rainstorm comes in.
It was torrential. The sources call it the dispensation of God. They claim the rain was so intense it forced everyone into this desperate state of prayer. It was a spiritual trial.
Turning chaos into a condition.
Exactly. And they declare that moment of intense devotion to be a reversal of Pilate's court, where the masses demanded Jesus' death. Then the rain stopped, the sun came out. A literal resurrection that set the stage for the final offensive.
Which was the Washington Monument rally, the big one. Spiritual and physical victory. What was the impact on the ground that led to this declaration?
It was a triple victory, and even the media at the time recognized it. First, the scale, over 300,000 people. Second, the message was successfully delivered. And third, the crowd's behavior was exemplary.
And they cleaned up, right? That was a big deal.
A huge deal. They promised to clean the entire area, and they did it flawlessly. A local TV station even declared the leader was a man of his word. That sealed the condition of physical victory.
Now let's get into the spiritual mechanics here, the timing. The rally began at 3 p.m. on September 18th, and that just happened to coincide with Chairman Mao's funeral in China.
Well, according to the sources, it didn't just happen. This is the most dramatic spiritual claim. Mao, who they call the leader of the ungodly world, was being buried at the exact hour 3 p.m. that the champion of God was being raised up in Washington.
Satan's representative goes down, God's representative goes up.
Symbolically, yes. And they point to the media coverage as proof. The Washington Post had the rally on the front page, but Mao's obituary was buried on page 18.
So with a victory this big, what was the immediate consequence? Beyond the physical world. The speech makes a monumental claim about the entire spirit world being liberated.
This is the revolutionary core of the whole speech. The victory in Washington liberated the sorrowing hearts of God, Jesus, and all the martyrs. But even more than that, it meant the spirit world itself was unified.
What does that mean, unified?
It means the historical barriers between different religious realms, Buddha's, Jesus's, Muhammad's, they've been broken down. The territories are gone. Spirits can now communicate freely.
Wait, okay, if the spirit world is totally liberated and unity is established and Satan can no longer attack, why is the next target Moscow? What's the fight that's left?
That's the critical paradox, isn't it? The wind has changed from defensive to offensive, but the physical world is still lagging behind. The enemy is cornered, but its physical manifestation, communism, still has to be dealt with on Earth.
So the purpose isn't destruction.
No, it's salvation. And the weapon isn't bullets, it's the principle of God. And this is where that mobilized spirit world becomes the army. Spirits aren't stopped by visas or language barriers.
So how does that work?
The strategy is to target the second generation, the children of the communist leaders. The prediction is that they'll start receiving visions, speaking to God and Jesus directly, and challenging their parents' atheism from the inside out.
That spiritual mobilization also gives the members a unique authority then. It sounds like the claim is that the laws of spiritual physics have been changed by this single event.
That is exactly the claim. As direct heirs, members are told they now have the authority to command the spirit world in prayer. The sources say their ancestors will now descend like Niagara Falls to pressure their own descendants to join.
So this is the practical application.
It's the practical application. They're told you can now give a command in prayer in the name of the true parents and the day of the victory of heaven and insist that your ancestors cooperate. The highway between the worlds is wide open.
To wield that kind of power, though, the moral standard has to be incredibly high. The speech really emphasizes maintaining the intensity of that Washington Monument campaign.
Absolutely. The standard is absolute spiritual rigor. First, unite Christianity and Judaism to deal with the external communist threat, but also deal with the internal threats in drugs, immorality, which are described as Satan's weapons to capture the youth.
So it's not just about belief, it's about physical purity to maintain that spiritual connection.
It is. The conviction is that, at this point, death is irrelevant. A martyr in this new era becomes an instant hero, and God will finish their mission. The chasm has been bridged.
So we've covered the numerology of October 4th, the goal of this unified laughing body, the indemnity course, the victory over communism at Mao's funeral, and this huge claim of unifying the spirit world and aiming it at Moscow.
And the Declaration states that this unity between the physical and spirit worlds means that, for the first time, Satan no longer has power over them. The challenge left for you, for the listener, is this. How do you maintain that peak spiritual intensity in daily life? If the Washington rally was the absolute peak, what does surpassing that standard even look like when the goal isn't just one event, but the spiritual salvation of an entire global ideology? That's the mandate from the day of the victory of heaven.